Welcome to the BlackTrack, where I do commentary and review on movies with an all-black cast, or at least a black lead. Today's movie is a movie that I grew up watching religiously, because it would come on TV all the time. Not because it's the greatest movie ever made or anything, but I've always viewed it as a fun little distraction of a movie. I'm talking about Disorderlies, a 1987 comedy film directed by Michael Schultz, whose director credit list is getting longer and longer on this channel. As you should know by now, he directed Car Wash, Cooley High, Living Large, The Last Dragon, and most importantly, Crush Groove. I say most importantly because that was probably where Schultz first got to work with the classic rap trio, the Fat Boys, consisting of Prince Marky D, Kool Rock Ski, and Buff Love. Sadly, of the trio, only Kool Rock Ski is still living today, and he's hardly what I would consider a fat boy these days. I was never a huge fan of the Fat Boys' music growing up, and most of their biggest hits were just them rapping over classic hooks, but it was something about them that was just charming and entertaining. I can't really describe it. Disorderly started life as a completely different movie before it was decided that it would be revamped into a vehicle for the Fat Boys. If it feels random while watching the movie, that's because it is. Not to say that the Fat Boys weren't a commodity at the time or anything, they definitely were. But I get the impression that they probably wanted somebody, say, like John Candy instead. Also, originally, it was going to be a remake of the 60s film The Disorderly Orderly, before going through script changes. Either way, after showing that they can be entertaining in Crush Groove, everything was put behind making the Fat Boys marketable stars, not only for this movie, but also in the music space, since their album Crushin' was released on the same exact day. Disorderlies has a simple plot. 3 orderlies, Kool, Marky, and Buffy, suck so bad at their job that they end up catching the attention of a guy who can use their lack of services. As you can already tell, this is a movie where the Fat Boys are basically playing themselves. But does the lack of acting mean that the movie can't be good? Let's BlackTrack and find out. I just want to make one observation right from the top. This movie's plot reminds me a lot of Babs, and there's more than a few things that connects the two movies. You'll see. Hey, these guys don't look incompetent at all to me. Never have I seen a nursing home so energetic and happy. What the problem is? Plus you get a free Fat Boys concert every day. Sign me up. I mean, you know, when I get to that age. Disorderlies is in a race to the finish for some reason, because it also uses the musical intro to introduce our antagonist too. This guy Winslow, played by Anthony Geary. At first, you have no idea how this guy and his gambling problems ties into the Fat Boys, but it becomes clear eventually. Not only does Winslow have a gambling problem, but he uses his sidekick Miguel, played by Tony Plana, to cheat. He tries to anyway.
Oh, I'm terribly sorry.
See, if you were smart, Miguel, you would have had a plethora of sunglasses, just in case something happened to that one.
Oh yes, you have a plethora.
Jefe, what is a plethora?
And yes, Tony Plana also played Jefe in The Three Amigos, a movie he did right before this one actually. Funny enough, The Three Amigos movie is the whole reason that I even know the meaning of the word plethora. If you suck at gambling and you suck at cheating, I'm gonna need you to put them goddamn cards down. What my boy Kenny Rogers say? You gotta know when to hold them and when to fold them. And right now, you need to fold them cards like laundry. Then, as if it couldn't get any worse, Winslow owes about $14,000 to Razor Ramon. That's not his name, but it's the first person I thought of when I saw this guy. He has a plan though. You see, Winslow has an Uncle Albert who's on his way to that big country club in the sky. He just needs a little help getting there. Not the kind of help he can get from these goody-goody two-shoes orderlies who take pride in their work. No, Winslow needs a couple of disorderlies, if you know what I mean. He needs a couple of guys who are more likely to fall on Albert and kill him than to keep him alive. Albert Dennison is played by the late and longtime actor Ralph Bellamy. Bellamy is probably most known for his role as Randolph Duke in the movie Trading Places, a role he briefly reprised in a cameo in Coming to America. Here, he doesn't even have to do much acting in the first half of the movie. He just has to sit there and act like an old man, which comes easy because he's an old man. It's the Fat Boys who carry most of the weight in this movie, so to speak. Try not to take any offense to the fat jokes here. The whole movie itself is centered around them, and the majority of the jokes come from the Fat Boys themselves. They did name themselves the Fat Boys after all. The self-deprecating humor was all a part of their gimmick, and they carried that with them to this movie. I disagree with the media calling where the Fat Boys work the world's worst nursing home. We already saw how jumping it is. I bet these people live longer than in other nursing homes. And I bet the Fat Boys would have stayed employed if it wasn't for their gigantic appetite. I bet you would never guess why they eventually got fired. Killed a patient? No. Stole some money? Depends on how you look at it. No. What gets them fired is eating 80 chocolate cakes. No, not all in one day, silly. That would be crazy. They only ate 16 of them in a day, for 5 days, all in 1 week. Goodness gracious. It's okay. Winslow has good timing and scoops them up at the very moment that they're fired. Crazy how he has good luck with stuff like that, but not when he's gambling and doing dumb stuff like yelling "hit me" when he has 19 in blackjack. Hey, look at that. Cool Rock Ski's mother is played by Harriet Winslow. Jo Marie Payton making a short appearance 2 years before Family Matters even started. I like that Disorderlies doesn't use the race of the Fat Boys as the reason for their incompetence. Thankfully, it doesn't use many race jokes at all, which is an accomplishment in 1987. The only joke that can even remotely be considered race related is when Marky D tries to catcall some women on the beach.
Hey, you sexy, sweet young things, you!
It's vague enough to just be funny on its own without even knowing the real reason he got arrested. If this mansion looks familiar to you, then you're probably about as old as or even older than me, because the exterior of this house was used during the filming of the Beverly Hillbillies TV show. The mansion was used in a variety of movies and TV shows, but Disorderlies holds the distinction of being the first movie to use the actual interior of the house for filming, and not a set. There's a lot of slapstick comedy in this movie, and it's because the filmmakers wanted the Fat Boys to basically be the Black Three Stooges, and there's definitely a lot of slapping and sticking and poking and all kinds of nonsense going on. And although I can kind of see the vision, I actually don't like it. I think the Fat Boys were better without it, and their back and forth jokes to each other was way better than the physical stuff to me. But the physical stuff is why they got hired in the first place, so get the bag, I guess. Oh Lord, they in charge of the medicine too? Hopefully it's simple.
When the music sounds, you hit the iridescent medication preparation button, choose the spectrum selector, but you must ignore the quantity overdrive.
Okay.
And then, quite simply, activate the music terminator, and you are ready for the next time. All very simple, straightforward, no problems, right?
Yeah, I bet you're thinking they're fucked in this situation. But Disorderlies pulls a bait and switch, and later on, you learn that they actually got all that and didn't miss a damn thing. The medicine is the least of their problems. 3 guys from Brooklyn just aren't equipped to handle this kind of rich people Los Angeles technology, and they almost kill Albert on day 1. I'm sure the Fat Boys work better under the KISS system. You know, keep it simple, stupid. No wonder Cool Rock Ski has to be talked out of quitting on day 1. You don't need this kind of stress when your blood pressure probably already high. What they really needed was just some time away from this mansion, where they treat you like your own Weight Watchers. The only problem is, how do they leave and also take care of Albert? Why you bring him with you, of course. Just treat it like it's weekend at Bernie's. Of all the places they could go, they decide to go to a skating rink. You may laugh, but in the 80s, a roller skating rink was a big deal, and that's even without all the bells and whistles this one has. There's a live singer and Donnie Simpson is there. Damn, I never had a chance to go to one like this. Between all that and the thoughts they picked up along the way, no wonder Albert starts coming to his senses. I love how the relationship between Albert and the Fat Boy starts to develop, especially since it opens the door for more comedy.
Another night like this and I'll die.
You can't die, Albert. If you die, we'll lose his job.
Wilson is just too damn impatient for me. I know he only has like a week to get the money, but if you was gonna try and poison Albert anyway, what's the point of even having the orderlies? I'm guessing he wants somebody else to go down for the murder, but wouldn't the first orderlies be just as good for that? Maybe the original orderlies never gave him a chance because they were so good at their job. Yeah, I think I'm answering my own questions. Anyway, he tries to poison Albert one time, but he was out getting some Chinese. So he tries a second time, but it's interrupted by Buff Love. And is he licking dry coffee grounds straight out of the bottle? Now that's some big back behavior. Disorderlies likes to throw in a lot of only a fat man would do this type of jokes that you might miss at first if you weren't paying attention. Wilson is forced to throw the poison needle out of the window and inadvertently kills his dog that he loves oh so much. But don't feel bad for him just yet. It's established earlier that the dog is possibly racist. Not too crazy to think when its owner has a Hitler mustache. I don't know why it's cracking me up so much that the Disorderlies took time out to have a funeral for the dog, but it does. And just when I calmed down enough to stop laughing, they revealed that they even stuffed the dog. Look at this thing. Now the Disorderlies are still the Disorderlies, and even though they won Albert over, they're still incompetent. Their newest blunder is using Albert's pill cocktail to play cards, and when they nearly get busted by the butler, they wrap them up in a tablecloth and send Marky D to hide them temporarily. But he gets distracted because he has eyes for one of the maids named Carla. And you would think that the dude named Buff Love would be the one on all the women, but Marky D is the one that chases all the coochie in this film. Well, look who it is. The maid is played by Troy Byer, baby doll in the 5 Heartbeats, but most importantly, the writer of Baps. Like I mentioned earlier, the plot and overall tone of the film is very similar to Baps, and I want to say that Troy Byer was heavily influenced by Disorderlies, but remember, in my BlackTrack for Baps, I mentioned that Troy Byer absolutely hated the final product and wanted to make a completely different movie. So maybe the similarities are purely accidental. I just find it kind of ironic how she wrote a film that's almost exactly like a film she starred in 10 years earlier. It's also worth mentioning that this woman didn't age at all in those 10 years. She doesn't do very much in this movie, but she does unintentionally add to the comedy by trying to get Marky D to eat healthier. Yeah, good luck with that. After impressing me and the audience by learning the pill sequence, it's a shame that Marky D allowed Carla to throw them away. What are they gonna do with Albert now? He's as good as dead. Winslow thirsty ass already making funeral plans. But then something miraculous happens. Albert wakes up and is better than he was before. That's in spite of the Disorderlies trying to quote, save him. So turns out the medicine was actually keeping Albert in a state of weakness, and nobody had any idea, not even Winslow. So not only did hiring the Disorderlies backfire on Winslow, but them losing the pills made things even worse for him. Boy, you as good as dead as soon as the bad guy Razor Ramon finds out about this. After this, the Fat Boys and Albert become BFFs and begin doing everything together. It's like they become the illegitimate sons he never had, or maybe remind him of the ones he does have. He really introduces them to a lot of things, and you know the best way to show off all the cool things they do together in a short amount of time? That's right, you guessed it. A musical montage. We get Albert teaching them how to abuse these poor horses. He tries to give them all heart attacks with cardio, and he tries to break the record for making the heaviest object float in water. He even gives them money like it's an inheritance. And all this is capped off with a bonus musical interlude of the Fat Boys performing their song from the soundtrack called Baby You're a Rich Man. Winslow has had enough. At this point, he can't just wait for Albert to die, so he hires 2 hitmen to try to take him out and frame the Fat Boys for it. I bet he never imagined that Buff Love and Rock Ski would simultaneously make it easy and hard for him, because they brought the cops to the house, not because they called them, but because they got caught peeping in on some white women skinny dipping. The cops being there spooks the hitmen, but not before they could get a shot off at Albert. So to recap, once the Fat Boys get captured by the cops, Winslow's lackey Miguel plants the guns on the Fat Boys' belongings, framing them for the attempted murder. I know it's unnecessarily complicated, but if you can't tell by now, the story in Disorderlies was just thrown together, and it's more bloated than the Fat Boys themselves. And if you thought they were doing too much with that, it gets even more ridiculous in the last 20 minutes. For whatever reason, Disorderly shifts to a 2-man buddy comedy, with Buff Love and Rock Ski formulating a plan to get out of custody and to get back to the mansion to save Albert, Marky D, and Carla, who've been taken hostage. If you came for the physical comedy and the slapstick, then this is Disorderly's time to shine, because the last few minutes are arguably the funniest parts of the movie if you like the physical stuff. Buff Love and Rock Ski play off each other so well that you can't help but laugh at the situations, like when they use a coat hanger to not only escape police custody, but also drive the car backwards, all from the back seat, with handcuffs on. Then later they dress like cops and think they're about to go all Rambo on Winslow and crew, only to find out that they're afraid of their own shadows. They don't need all that. I think Buff Love is more than enough man to handle a bunch of henchmen. Well, it's the bitch. So Winslow and Razor Ramon's big plan is to steal the money out of Albert's safe and then set explosives to blow up Albert, Marky, and Carla while they escape. But I guess this was before you could do fancy futuristic things like set timers in movies. So he rigs it up like he's Wile E. Coyote with a ludicrously long fuse attached to some dynamite. See? Dynamite is written right there. Thankfully for our heroes, he set it right above the pool, so it's nothing that a little cannonball from Buff Love couldn't fix. Only both Buff and Rockski jump into the pool. So what do you call it when it's two balls? Oh, that's right, you drop your nuts on them. This buys everybody enough time to escape, because even after all that, the pool house blows up anyway, and it ensures everybody has a front row seat to Winslow allowing Razor Ramon to shoot him so he could look like a victim of the robbery and the only survivor. And then the movie just ends. We do get a narrated postscript with insane reveals like Albert having 5 more children with the girl he met at the club, and that both Razor and Winslow eventually went to prison. But you don't get any drawn out, we're all one big family now type of ending. Just a lot of, that's it. That's all we got. Let's get to the grade. I don't really know what it is about Disorderlies. Something about it is just charming and fun. The acting isn't great. The story isn't that interesting. The comedy is just okay, and nothing is really laugh out loud funny. But yet, I've been constantly drawn to it for 37 years, and if it comes on TV, you damn right I'm gonna watch every minute of it. Perhaps it's just a strange appeal of the fat boys. In this movie, they come across as 3 guys who just want to have fun doing what they love. No egos, no expectations, just 3 guys living the dream. I can truly see the appeal of these dudes, and it's no shock that in conjunction with this movie, their album, Crushin', released on the same day, went on to become the biggest selling and highest charting album of their careers. Disorderlies was never going to crush it at the box office, no pun intended, but I still think there was enough there to justify some more buddy comedy films from the Fat Boys. I think the world kind of missed out on that transition. All that said though, I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like Disorderlies is the best movie of all time. Despite how much I enjoy watching it and how it was a staple of my childhood, I can readily admit that it's a pretty below average movie. But at the same time, I still think it's entirely watchable, and I like to think of it as kind of a comfort movie. One that won't ruin your day, but also won't change your life. It's the epitome of, it is what it is. My grade for Disorderlies is a D. There's very few movies that stuck with me like this movie has, so that's saying something. And that's it for this episode of the BlackTrack. Was Disorderlies a staple of your childhood also? Let me know in the comments down below. And also, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and tell your friends about my channel. And until next time, I'll holla at you.